Welcome back, friend. Another content-rich video is going to happen here. And this material might take you time to be able to understand it, bring it into your existence. However, it's important to have it, be able to recognize it, and then just watch it work in your life. This isn't stuff that you need to know right off the bat. This is just information so that you can begin to recognize what happens inside our minds. So the whole point of moving into self-mastery is we want to be able to align to our purpose, align to who we are. And we get to do that by the very, very basic steps of strategy and authority, allowing decision-making correctly. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to move into each one of these transformational steps so that we can really pull our view, that 30,000-foot view up, and watch how this all works so that we're not caught up in the everyday mumble and jumble that's happening. So now we're talking about internal trajectory. And what that is that really is how our minds are designed to be motivated. This is the last transformational step. What the video that's coming up next is going to be around biology so that we can really feed the brain body system really well. So just stick with the movement here, stick with the information, walk through it. It's not a fast process. This is a process that takes time. So what we are going to talk about is the personality Sun Earth. This is where our awareness lies. This is where our internal genetic predisposition of how are we motivated? How do we have this unique authority? And this should say outer authority, meaning how are we designed to actually communicate at high levels? Right now, that's not happening on our planet. It's not happening at all. This awareness in form, this self-reflected passenger, that's where we want to get to so that everything in our life, our wealth, our abundance, our health, our relationships, our businesses, everything can be at a higher level, much easier level, one where we're just kind of gliding through and watching how beautiful this is. So when we have this correct motivation, it leads us into our unique outer authority, and this experiences the life as a self-reflected conscious being. This is the relaxed passenger with no more wants that destroy the vehicle. That's really what happens when our mental conditioning, this coach does this, or this firm does this, I want that. That person has a yacht, I want it. We begin to destroy our vehicles. Now, I watch this every day. This is a part of my perception, is want. So it's about learning people behavior. It's about learning all of this information so that I can present it to you and you can begin to let go of all of the stuff that's happening on our planet right now. So all three steps lead up to being a real adult. The foundation, the brain needs to work correctly. The environment needs to be established. Based on your perspective, you can develop your mind and your true outer authority. So step 4, this correct motivation allows us to experience our outer authority, to be that true consciousness, passenger consciousness. And this is going to take the longest time. Minimum 34 years to get here. And more so stepping into it when we're in our 50s. That really is where the power lies within us. Because we are these Uranian beings. So trusting the process. We want to enrich our minds. Instead of having a mind that's full of garbage, that is destroying our physical bodies and our existence, we want it to be clean, crisp, and beautiful. And enhancing our own minds allows us to live a better life. So there isn't an exclusivity of what you will see outside. Mind is part of your internal process. Motivation is the whole process of the life process and the mental and the correct way to think. The minute that we are not thinking correctly, if we're not feeding our brains, if we're not in the right environment, if we can't see what we're designed to see, we cannot think correctly. And incorrect thinking then leads to a mind that wants so hard to take hold of the decision-making process. So trust grows over time. The human design system in itself, it's going to show you over and over and over again that it can be trusted. And every time you trust in the knowledge as it applies to you uniquely, and each time you recognize, you get the confirmation that you need for the process that you've entered into. You must move closer and closer to surrendering to your form so that you can ultimately spend your time paying attention to your personality, watching it, enjoying it, seeing what it is. And through that perception, seeing not just yourself, but the other in the world around you in a totally different way. That, when we can begin to recognize, I love when I'm coaching people and they're talking to me, I see all of this beauty. It just pops out on from their designs, from their human design body graph. And man, I get to see them in a completely different way because I'm not inside that energy field. I'm watching it. I've moved up against it, and I'm able to pluck out their languaging and then pull it out and show them in the design exactly what is happening. And most of the time, so many people are on purpose and they don't think they are. So let's move forward on this. So what we're going to look at first is the tonal architecture. So take a look at the arrow that's beside your personality, Sun, Earth. Which way does it face? If it's left, you have a strategic mind. If it's right, you have a receptive mind. For me, I have a right receptive mind. This is your anterior and posterior pituitary gland. And the ajna is more towards the left. It's more logical or strategic, but the head is more towards the right and receptive and more sensing. This gray area where everything is stored. So don't get caught up, please. Don't get caught up in all of this information. Just begin to recognize. So what the ajna wants to do, it wants to conceptualize, and it wants to do it in a very logical way. The head center, it is receptive. It's here to bring in lots of pressure so it can conceptualize. Now, either way, whatever's happening for you, it's happening for you and it's working perfectly. So if it's strategic, you're going to be bringing in information, but there's going to be this strategic way that you focus in, that you think ahead, that you're discriminating, that you're filtering, so that you know what you know, so that you can learn alone. This gap orientation, you can actually fill in the gaps. But if you are a right mind person, you're open. You think in the presence. You experience. You take it all in. You do not know what you know. And you learn in a group, applying the knowledge. So we're going to really dive deep into this in the next two slides. So the left strategic, if you have the wrong focus, it's going to, the wrong stuff is going to be focused in on. The wrong strategies are going to be provided. And you're not going to remember these conversations. So it's so important to align everything before we get to this step so that we know if we are left beings and we are designed to be strategic, what are we designed to be strategic for? That's where we're going to go into the gates and the lines and the color so that you can really focus in on it. So filter, you take in specific information and you always know what you know because you've taken in a very specific aspect, a very specific piece of information. So the example of storage, the information is labeled so others can find the information. You're equipped to learn alone. Gap orientation, learning. You must know the gap. So what's important is left-minded people. Test them. Test these people. Test their strategic mind. If you have a strategic mind, tests are good for you. So you'll know what is in the gap. Like, what did you miss? Out of that 10% that you were able to focus in on while you're sitting in the classroom, what was that 10% that you learned and what was the 90% you didn't? Test and see where the gap is. Receptive beings take it in and they store it forever. You never know what you know. When you're asked the right questions, that information can be drawn out of you. So what's important is that you teach it, that you get comfortable with your work that you have stored, and you have to learn everything. This is my mind, so I know this deeply. So you must be present in class. You must be present in the boardroom. You must be present in the meeting. You must be present in the groups. Because if you're missing out, you're totally missing out. You're not there soaking it all in. The intelligence of the receptive being is dependent on the people who are drinking from your well. If you're intelligent, if you're with intelligent people, you're going to be intelligent. If you're not with intelligent people, they're not asking you the right questions. They're not pulling the information out correctly. You look and have this aspect of not looking very intelligent. So go for the highest intelligence group. Always be in the highest intelligence group. So again, this left strategic, it's very focused. It's very discriminating. It's a busy mind. And it deals with the uncertainties, the security, and the action. It's always dealing with uncertainty. Security, how do we stay secure and safe and healthy? And what actions are we designed to take? What is this strategic action taken? And the left strategic brain is mostly what you see in business right now. However, we are moving to this receptivity. That mind that does not need to be stimulated because it takes it all in anyway. Meditation, judgment, it takes it in. It takes into this and that. So what is different? And it's not about comparing. It's just experiencing, and the acceptance is discriminating. So the meditation piece, this is just be available. So if you have a Sun Earth on your design, or your personality side, this is how you are to become aware. Receptive. That's why I do business differently than other people. Judgment and acceptance. Again, this slide has lots and lots of content on it, you guys, but I'm not going to read it all. I just want you to just recognize how strategic this left-oriented mind can be. So if you have a first tone, it's all about security. Second tone, it's about that uncertainty. And basically your mind can handle whatever is thrown at you. And then the third tone is about action. The mind is busy. It's designed to think. What's important here is that you know what you're supposed to be focused in on. So let go of focusing in on all of the distractions. You want to focus in on the true self, which is those strengths, which is so healthy for you. And when you are learning, what you want to know is what did you miss? So be tested so that you know where your gaps are. Because you're designed to have 20 moves ahead in your head. But you need to know, what did you miss? So being tested, what did you miss? Now, our school systems, this is what they do for everybody. But it's only good for left-focused, strategic minds. Test those that have a left mind. You're here to compare. You're here to store, but you're only going to store a small percentage of it. And you're going to have this place in your mind. It's going to have a shelf. It's going to have a label. And you're going to be able to know that. And you know what it is because it's labeled and it's there. Now, when we move over to the right side, the rightness is just about being. If you have a fourth tone, it's not that you need to be stimulated a whole bunch, not like the action piece of the left mind. The right mind meditation does not need to be stimulated. If it's about judgment, if it's a fifth tone, recognize the difference and you don't compare. Just judges what is different. And the acceptance, take it all in. You do not judge. It's just about accepting how the cycles move through. So deeply conditioned. These people are very deeply conditioned. And I know this very well because that's how our school system really is. So we're not designed to actually filter what our minds are bringing in. We're designed to take it all in and then align ourselves with the correct people on our trajectory so that we can have the correct information pulled out of us. So this is no pattern discrimination. This is the itness. This is the experiential way that human beings are really designed for. It's not about logic. It's not about structure. There's no file cabinets in this mind. It's just all the information is thrown in there, and then it's the quality of those questions that bring out that information. So what we want to do is that we first want to meet our type and know and align ourselves to our strategy, our type, and our authority. Because there's a massive difference here between the strategic mind and the receptive mind. We need to be able to respect that. And you get to, whatever side you're on here, you get to live correctly. You get to have that correct mind. So I don't want to be forced into a left strategic mind way. And when I am, I get very frustrated because it's like, that's not how I learn. And that's not how I teach. And that's not how I go about things. However, I structured this program in a logical way so that both aspects can be enhanced. And then if the left person needs to only take in bits and pieces of it, that they can do that because it's video content. Stop, walk away, go do whatever you need to do and then come back. The right person, they can have this playing in the background and they don't need to focus in on it. It can just be there because you're receptive. Okay, now we're going to move into the first two colors so that we can see here it is motivating us to survive. Color 1 is this fear. It's the basic motivation. Understanding about how to survive, how to literally survive. It motivates us to survive. And when we're correctly motivated, we make correct decisions. So we want to understand, like, what is fear? I don't want you to get rid of fear. Fear is a foundation for humanity. We're designed to have an aspect of knowing how to survive on this planet because our bubbles of biology are very vulnerable. So what's healthy for you if you have fear as your color motivation is that you get to know what should we be concerned about and what shouldn't we be concerned about. And having this sense of intelligence around that. So if you are left strategic and you have fear, this moves from this separatist to this communalist. Again, we've seen these movements. So you're finding the survival security in numbers. You start alone and you end up with others. Survival. But if you are right, you started with others and then you moved to the separatist. So how to find survival on your own? Again, this is about knowing what to be concerned about. I'm recording this. It's the 2020 year. And the debating of this virus that has overcome our mental state of wellness on this planet, how to survive this. Some people are going to the separatists. I'm going to go alone. I'm going to be alone. Others are like, no, let's create communities and let's fight this. That's how we survive this. There's a dichotomy always happening. So if you transfer over to this need, what happens is that there's going to be an intense fog. That's brain fog. Brain fog happens when we make the mind make decisions, and then we are in this compulsive neediness. So it's very seductive for the not self mind to be in need. So you transfer to learning. That's what need wants to do. It wants to learn instead of paying attention to survival. All of a sudden you become very needy and you get needy about what you're learning. And it becomes very unclear and it's like this empty neediness. You think that you need to be loved. Thinks that someone's looking over your shoulder and the fear pushes you. God's looking over your shoulder. This is how need has defined fear, and it's so wrong. It's afraid. There's no intelligence behind it. Fear is just simply about survival. So we can look at this and we can go, okay. What are some roles in this life where this mind could be put to task, to be put on purpose? Well, teaching safety training, becoming a paramedic, owning a company that supplies medical supplies. Maybe it is a natural. You want to have your own supplement line so that you can help people survive in a whole different way. So again, it goes back to your strategy and authority, who's calling you out, who's asking for this, but how does humanity survive? And that's really what your motivation is designed to be. Hope. So hope, it's about believing. Hope that the boat will come to give you a ride. Don't interfere. Wait and see. Fear people need to interfere. They see somebody bleeding, they're going to put on a bandage. Hope is that, knowing that there's a medical doctor on the way, that you don't need to interfere because maybe you don't have the capabilities to do that. It's about waiting and seeing. So knows what to be hopeful about because it's guided by cognition. So go back to the Sun Earth on the design side. What is the cognition over there? Then you'll know what you are designed to be hopeful for. You get to know how to stand back because the wind is blowing correctly and the river's flowing correctly. How to stand back and let the flow take you Again, it's the survival mechanism. However, it isn't about interfering with the survival mechanism. Fear is going to interfere. It's going to get in there. Hope is not going to do that. So if you're on the left side, this theist side, they were anti-theists. So you start with not believing and then you move to a belief. Focus in. So God is strategic. There's a focus on one thing. It needs an agenda. That's what strategic people need. You're more aware of the hope, yearning for existential quality, and you will find your strategy and focus to believe in. It will bump into you. It will come towards you. But if you're moving from the theist to the anti-theist, so if you have a receptive mind, you believe in God and then you move to a non-belief or a belief in self. It's existential experience. You don't need a God. You don't care about the future. You don't need this believing. They are the anti-theists. This is hope that is the itness. So this is, I am hope, anti-theist, receptive. So it's understanding that each one of us has this aspect of God inside of us. But there's others on the planet that believe, nope, there's one God, that's it, one God. And that's okay. This is how we're all designed, to be on both sides of this and watch the dichotomy of it. And we do not need to fight about it, kill each other over it. It's okay to each one of us have our beliefs. But what will happen, hopeful people turn into guilty people. And then they get motivated by guilt. And what happens here is you feel guilty about everything. And you want to take action outside of your strategy and authority. Your mind is compulsively telling you to take action, fix things, hurry up. So you can't sit by the river and hope for something. You take action and it becomes compulsive. So for me, I've learned how to be able to sit by the river and be hopeful. It's not about blind hope. This is about being hopeful. Blind hope is, I'm going to live forever. Being hopeful that I am going to have a very high quality life and then I'm going to die, that's what hope's about. When you transfer over to guilt, it's this mental fiddler, right? It fiddles with your mind. It gets in there. You can't wait. You never stop. You're constantly in there. You're obsessed. You blame others for not fixing something. Guilt gets very distorted when we are in transference. So just watch how your mind is motivated. That's all we have to do here. Now, when we move to the third color, now we're moving from a survival-based mechanism to how do we learn? How are we designed to learn? So this third color, desire, is learning is the motivator. We can already survive, but what can we learn? So the question is, how are we going to learn things? There's a desire to learn. Can learn in large groups. We can learn alone. Learn and laugh. This isn't about personalized learning. This is a desire to learn, a desire to have more information. So if you are left, you went from being a follower of somebody to being a leader. So this is the model of parenting. You lead the children. You start as the follower and then you become the leader. So you were a child at one time and now you are the parent leading the child. The right is this leader to follower. So you follow yourself, not a leader. It's not about a way, but you follow your own life. You follow your own flow. And you start leading itself and ends up following its own way. So you get to learn and just walk down your path. That's beautiful. But what happens is that it transfers over to innocence. So instead of being desirous of learning, it's like, just sits back, doesn't want to learn anything, doesn't want to do anything. It's like it's taking life off. You're going to lose the specificity of what you desire to learn, and then you won't get involved. Desire without cognition is burning. It is burning for your cognition. Cognition, we need to have that cognition. So blind desire is the not self taking advantage of it. So what comes to you? Use your strategy and authority. Begin to recognize what needs to be learned. What needs to have you move into so that you can experience what you need to experience and be your own leader or your own follower. And then we have the fourth color. And again, this is about learning and this is need. So it's a different way to learn. We move from the master to the novice. So we need small groups and a master. This is about specific learning and aware of what is necessary. So you master how to develop your skills. On the left side, we go from this novice that's in these groups to the master, to the teacher. Novice learns of how something new, and then you move from being this novice person to this strategic master. And these people like to tell us how we can learn. The right is this master to this novice. So you started out alone, but you know that all of a sudden, you do better in groups. You do better in, you do better learning with other people. So you master your own life by being your own master. As you're a virgin, you move, you virgin of learning. Right? We step into these brand new learnings and we're this virgin. So we need to go from trying to master our own life to reconciling and surrendering to being a novice. And what happens in this receptive side is that you store it all in. And you only use that learning for when somebody asks you, what do they need? What do they need from you? And just like in the perspective, need transfers to all other colors. So it can transfer to any other color, but it mostly transfers to fear. So instead of learning, it moves to the survival and then it gets very fearful, compulsive fear. And it'll eat you up because it's trying to survive versus just standing in learning. And it's not about that survival for you if you have need as your color. It's about learning this life, whether that be as a master or as a novice. And now we move to the 5 and the 6, and the 5 and the 6 motivate us to find our own spirit. 5 is guilt. It's on you to do something. So you are the one that can handle it, and you can fix it, and you are the one that can do something about it. So whatever it is in your life, know that you are the one that's designed to fix. You don't need hope. You're here to fix things. Hands on to find the spirit. Knowing what needs to be changed through intelligence. Remember, here we had survival. Then we had intelligence, learning, and now, we're taking in all of this energy. So how and what do we need to fix? Who gets things done and who doesn't? You're the messenger. You're the messenger of this. So we have conditioner and conditioned. Conditioners give you a strategy. They manipulate people into a strategy. So the left starts out as being manipulated first and then becoming the manipulator. Now, many people take manipulation as something that is incorrect. We take the Webster Dictionary. That's not what this is about. Manipulation in human design terminology is actually about influencing people. And then the conditioned. So you do not have a strategy on how to fix things. You move from the manipulator, not really manipulating others into a strategy because you don't have one, but to being manipulated. So you move towards the conditioned, and who are the ones who will condition is really people in groups. So the best way to learn is in groups. Learning by the application of the knowledge, and the most conditioned to find your spirit and fix things is through the penta. Now, why do we say that? Because we want to learn here. We want to see the survival, we want to learn, and then as guilty, receptive, conditioned beings, you're going to learn best about group and human spirit in groups. What will happen, though, is that these guilty people transfer in and go, we'll just be hopeful. We'll just be really hopeful. Oh, believing, not believing, waiting for God. It's like this blind hope. So one of the parables that comes to mind here is there's been a flood. There's been a big hurricane and a flood. And you're sitting on the rooftop and you're praying and you're praying and you're praying and you're praying. Praying to be saved. And a car comes along. And it's a large SUV. Because the flooding isn't too bad yet. And you're like, no, I got to stay here. I got to wait for God to save me. And the SUV drives away. Then the water starts to go a little higher. A boat comes along. No, I got to wait for God to save me. I better hang on here and I better wait. Then all of a sudden, you're on your rooftop and a helicopter comes along and wants to lift you off. And you're like, no, I got to wait for God to save me. Well, and then you drowned. So you get to the pearly gates and you say to God, like, why didn't you save me? And God's like, well, I sent you a car, I sent you a boat, and I sent you a helicopter. He was waiting for some Satori moment. That's blind hope. Take action when action is needed. If you are guilt, you will know the correct action because the strategy and authority will guide you to that. And with that guidance, you find your own spirit and you help others find their spirit. Innocence. This is about finding spirit and being motivated by the spirit. It really is no motivation at all. Why? Just to be innocent and completely surrender. You do the things in life because you do it without motivation. These really are the altruistic beings on our planet. You'll recognize that these people are very naive. They have no intention on what they're doing. Your authority just moves you. So allow your authority, your inner authority, to just move you. Lots of people think you're dumb and naive, but you're just being this innocent being. You don't look at the consequences, you just move with it. It's not about this or that. It's just about moving forward. So what you're designed to do is trust your inner authority to move you to the correct space. So if you're switching over and you're transferring into desire, what will happen is that you're going to switch to trying to learn something, trying to get involved, trying to get in there. It's very compulsive. This relentless desire and itchiness. It's longing for something. And there's this burning. And it's distorted. And there can be a false innocence And that's where we end up having the wrong leaders in the world. People think that innocent people are maybe even lazy because they're just moving along, or maybe people take advantage of them. Maybe that's what it is. Not really laziness, but people take advantage of them. And it probably does happen. So the left is this observer that gives us the strategy and the judgmental ability to start by being observed and then become a strategic observer. You want to be the strategic observer of the world, of the spirit. You want to be moved by people's spirits. But if you're right, you're going to go from being this observer to being observed in this lifetime, being that person that naively walks around this planet and just to be observed. You're just living your life. And this is innocence at its highest peak, because that's where we're moving. We are moving to these receptive beings. And if you were to take it, every 6 line, all of the 6 lines in every 64 gates, all of the 6 lines in the colors, all of the 6 lines in the tones, what we get is what we are going to be in the future. The super receptive being. So don't get caught up in all this information. We're gonna walk through it. I'll coach you through it all so that you can recognize it in your own chart. Just want you to have it so that you can move forward in a way where your mind is being used correctly, where you're being motivated correctly, and you're not getting caught up in everyday distractions. All right, friend. Thank you.